Yes, now if you read through, you will see information technology, especially the use of networks, can help firms lower the cost of market participation, right? IT නිසා, especially network usage එක නිසා මේ කියන transaction cost එක, එහෙම නැත්නම් market එකට participate වෙන්න දරන cost එක firm එකකට අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන්. Especially by using networks. Now that is being greatly used in the current context. For example, firms have integrated networks where suppliers can join with the organization, can participate to the functions of the organization. Where suppliers have access to certain parts of the organization. A very popular example which we have been using throughout the lecture series, Walmart, if you can remember, we told you how they have access to certain parts of the network of the organization. They can, the inventory replenishment system to which they have an access to, right? Such systems are there. Then procurement systems, automated procurement systems are there. So lots of places where information systems and networking have been, utilized within firms to reduce this transaction cost. Then අපි කලින් context එකේ කිව්වා වගේ traditionally මේ information acquire කරගන්න ලොකු පිරිවැයක් කාලයක් දරන්න වෙනවානේ. information cost එක කියලා අපි හඳුන්වන්නේ ඒකනේ. cost of information means in a traditional context now the time and the effort that you have to exert in order to find information, that we call as simply information cost, and there can be other associated costs as well. But due to IT, these costs can be greatly reduced, right? Now you can easily compare between different suppliers, you can easily compare between different business partners and choose who is the best one to you, and you can easily at very low cost communicate with these people. You don't have to travel like in a traditional context. You can easily arrange virtual meetings, easily monitor your contract compliance, right? So all those things have been facilitated due to IT, right? So due to this, it makes worthwhile for firms to contract with external suppliers instead of using internal sources. So අභ්‍යන්තර මූලාශ්‍ර භාවිතා කරලා එහෙම නැත්නම් ආයතනය වෙන external parties acquire කරලා ඒගොල්ලත් එක්ක contracts monitor කරගෙන යනවට වඩා, ඒගොල්ලත් එක්ක operations කරගෙන යනවට වඩා, right? externally මේ parties තියාගෙන networking සහ information technology use කරලා මේගොල්ලත් එක්ක connect වීම තුලින් ලොකු ඉතිරියක් organization එකට කරගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා කියනවා transaction cost එක පැත්තේ, right? As a result, what happens? Firms can shrink in size, right? Number of employees, for example, can be greatly reduced. You don't have to hire new employees. You can still outsource the service and keep healthy connections with these external parties at very low cost, right? Because it is far less expensive to outsource work to a competitive marketplace rather than hire employees. Right? Employee කෙනෙක් hire කරලා යාට වැටුපක් දෙනවට වඩා, rather than hiring an employee and managing him or her and paying a salary for those kinds of people, you can easily outsource this work to expert firms who are in the external market, who have already maybe achieved economies of scale also, or where you can arrive at favorable terms with them, negotiate at friendly rates, and still fulfill these services which you need. So is that clear to you? ඒකේ තේරෙන්නේ නැති දෙයක් තියෙනවද transaction cost theory එකේ? Any doubts that you have or any points that were not clear, you can ask. No questions? I hope it's clear then, right? Okay. So next we move on to the agency theory. Hi, ඊළඟට අපි නියෝජ්‍යත්ව න්‍යාය කියන එක ගැන කතා කරනවා. Agency theory viewed a firm as a nexus of contracts. What do you mean by nexus? Nexus is a collection, right? So in agency theory, a firm is viewed as a collection of multiple contracts. Among who? Among self-interested individuals rather than a unified profit-maximizing entity. Now, usually we look at organizations as a profit-maximizing entity, right? A united entity which has the sole objective of maximizing its profits. අපි කියනවා ලාභ අරමුණු කරගෙන ලාභ උපරිම කරගැනීමේ අරමුණින් පවත්වාගෙන යන යුනිට් එකක් විදිහටනේ අපි සරලවම ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් දිහා බලන්නේ. නමුත් ඒජන්සි තියරි එකට අනුව නියෝජ්‍යත්ව න්‍යායට අනුව අපි ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් දිහා බලන්නේ contracts වල එකතුවක්, right? ගිවිසුම් කිහිපයක එකතුවක්. මේ ගිවිසුම් ඇති වෙන්නේ කාත් එක්කද? self interested individuals, right? තමන්ගේ ස්වාර්ථය පදනම් කරගෙන එකට එක්වන පුද්ගලයන් කිහිපයකගේ අතරේ ඇතිවන ගිවිසුම් කිහිපයක එකතුවක් විදියට තමයි අපි organization එකක් දකින්නේ. So these individuals always try to maximize their own self interest, right? So these agreements and these contracts occur between those kinds of individuals who try to maximize their self interest, right? So let's see who are the parties within this contract, right? මේ contract එක ඇතුලේ කවුද ඉන්න parties? A principal or owner employs agents who are called as employees to perform work on his or her behalf. So this concept you may have discussed in under your corporate law modules which you have learned already. You have learned about who is a principal and who is an agent, right? You have learned about this contract theory, right? So and legal contracts you have already learned about. Now in this principal agency relationship, there is a principal who employs an agent in order to do all the work on his or her behalf. තමන් වෙනුවෙන් වැඩ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන්න ඒජන්ට් කෙනෙක්ව පත් කරනවා ප්‍රින්සිපල් කෙනෙක්. හරි? එතකොට කවුද මේ ඕගනයිසේෂන් කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එකේදී ප්‍රින්සිපල් වෙන්නේ? The business owner is the principal, right? He or she is the person who employs another person to do his or her work on behalf of them, right? Agent in this case is a employee, right? So what is the issue that can happen in this context? However, agents need constant supervision and management, right? So what happens if these agents or if these employees are not constantly supervised? If these agents are not constantly monitored, what is the negative impact that can happen? මොකද්ද වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ agents ලව නිතරම constantly monitor කරේ නැත්තම්, right? They will tend to pursue their own interest rather than those of the owners, right? දැන් මේ employees ලාව constantly monitor කරේ නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි කියවන මේගොල්ලන් ස්වාර්ථය පදනම් කරගෙන වැඩ කරන ක්‍රියා කරන පුද්ගලයන් කියලා. ඒතර මේගොල්ලන්ව monitor කරේ නැත්නම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? They pursue their own interest rather than the interest of the owners. So although the owner might have the intention of maximizing the firm profitability, right? These individuals, these self-interested individuals who are known as the employees, they might try to maximize their own self-interest, their own self-profitability, putting aside the, the goal of the firm as one unit, right? So as firms grow in size and scope, agency costs or coordination costs rise. Now, when the organization keeps on expanding, keeps on getting bigger by size, what happens? This agency cost or the coordination cost keeps rising, right? This can also be viewed as the management cost as well. හරි? දැන් firm එකක size එක එන්න එන්න විශාල වෙන්න මොකද වෙන්නේ? මේ නියෝජ්‍යත්ව පිරිවැය කියන එක එන්න එන්න වැඩි වෙනවා. ඇයි? employees line එන්න වැඩි වෙනවා. ඒතකොට employees ලාව manage කරන්න අපි යොදවන්න ඕන management එකටත් අපිට දරන්න වෙන පිරිවැය එන්න එන්න වැඩි වෙනවා, right? So owners must expend more and more effort supervising and managing employees, right? So owners have to spend more and more in order to keep managing these employees or the agents, of the organization, right? Okay. Let's see how IT can help to reduce this agency cost. Information technology, by reducing the costs of acquiring and analyzing information, permits organizations to reduce agency costs because it becomes easier for managers to oversee a greater number of employees. Now, IT, right, has the ability of reducing the cost of acquiring information as well as analyzing information. Now, in the traditional context, all of this was done by humans, right? There was a separate management dedicated for this purpose, right? Now, in the traditional context, let's assume if uh, let's say 20 managers were needed to oversee the number of employees in the organization. With information technology, this number of managers can be reduced to 10 or even 5, right, depending on the context. දැන් තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණය නිසා අපිට කලින් context එකේදී employees ලා manage කරන්න managers ලා 20 දෙනෙක් ඕනේ වුණා නම් මේ information access එක information technology නිසා information acquire කරන්න ඒ වගේ information analyze කරන්න අපිට දරන්න වෙන පිරිවැය අඩු වෙන නිසා සහ තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණය භාවිතා කරලා විශාල employees ලා ප්‍රමාණයක් එකවර manage කරන්න monitor කරන්න හැකියාව තියෙන නිසා අපි අර managers ලා 20 දෙනෙක් වෙනුවෙන් දරන්න වෙන පිරිවැය සමහර විට අපිට managers ලා 10 දෙනෙක් දක්වා අඩු කරගැනීමේ හැකියාව තියනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. It's an assumption only, right? It can change from scenario to scenario. Why? Because a single manager can continue to oversee a larger number of employees, right? So information technology enables firms to reduce the overall management cost, right? Since a single manager can oversee a greater number of employees now than in previous cases, now the cost that the organization has to incur on management reduces. හරි අපි management cost එක සැලකිය යුතු ප්‍රමාණයකින් අපිට අඩු කර ගැනීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Increase profits by shrinking the number of middle managers and clerical workers. So this has the ability of increasing the profits of the organization. So when your management cost reduces, on the other hand, you have the ability of increasing your profits by reducing the number of middle managers your organization has, as well as the number of clerical workers that the organization employs, right? Why? Because now in the case of clerical workers, of course, we discussed how information technology can replace certain elements of this labor, right? Certain workers. So these costs can be replaced, as well as since management can, look at a lot of employees at a single instance, since their control has been widened, their span of control has been widened. Once again, management cost also can be greatly reduced, right? Now, in the previous example, which some of you also related, you talked about these sorts of, accounting software, right? Where a lot of work can be done by using a single management, right? So a lot of work which we used to fulfill by using multiple, maybe 3-4 managers, by using this kind of AIS software, accounting information systems, these functions of a lot of managers can be reduced, right? And due to these kinds of applications, the cost of agency can be reduced, right? So I hope you understand about agency theory and agency cost. If there are any questions, please feel free to raise them. මොනවාරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන්. agency cost එක, agency theory එක, transaction cost, transaction theory. I think no questions. Right. Now we move on to organizational and behavioral impacts. Right. Now we talked about economic impacts, and we looked at information systems and organizations from economic point of view. Now we are going to look at it from organizational and behavioral point of view, right? Okay. So, first we are going to talk about how IT has the ability of flattening the organization. Information technology facilitates flattening of hierarchies. Flattening of hierarchies by broadening the distribution of information to empower lower level employees and increase management efficiency. Right? Now take a little time to read through this slide and understand what it tries to uh, talk to you about. How IT flattens the organization. First, try to understand it in your own terms and then I'll explain it to you. Right, did you go through it? Now what does it talk about? IT has the ability of flattening the hierarchies. Now, in traditionally, in the previous lecture, so I remember I related this to you, how organizations have a hierarchy, hierarchy of authority. We talked about it under organizational features, right? So, traditionally, we find tall hierarchies within organizations, right? Where information has to travel through multiple levels, multiple layers, right? So IT has the ability of flattening this number of layers. The tallness of these organizations can be reduced by using IT. How? By broadening the distribution of information to empower lower level employees. Now, when lower level employees are given access to information, right? When they are empowered to take decisions on their own, what happens? uh, it also increases the management efficiency, right? Information access එක lower level employees ලට දුන්නාම ඒගොල්ලන්ව එක් පැත්තකින් empower වෙනවා. ඒක එක පැත්තක්. ඒ වගේම අනිත් පැත්තෙන් management එකේ efficiency එකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. I can remember I related an example to you regarding a bank, right? A scenario where a teller was given information access. I hope you remember that, so I'm not going to relate the entire case here, right? So you can revise your memory on that and see how this is possible, right? I can remember I related this same scenario earlier in the lecture as well. So IT pushes decision-making rights to lower levels because lower level employees receive information they need to make decisions without supervision, right? So IT has the ability of giving the decision-making rights to these bottom layer or the lower level employees, right? So therefore, these lower level employees, do they need supervision to make their decisions? No, they have the necessary information to make decisions on their own, so they do not need another person to supervise them. හරි ඒගොල්ලන්ව supervise කරන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ව manage කරන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට තව higher level employee higher level manager කෙනෙක් ඕනේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? Because managers now receive so much more accurate information on time, they become much faster at making decisions. So fewer managers are required. Also on the other hand, that lower level employees ලා empower වෙනවා එක පැත්තකින්. ඒ වගේම අනිත් පැත්තෙන් මොකද වෙන්නේ? Now when lower level employees have access to information, they can quickly take decisions and the delays in decision making can be reduced, right? Now the managers don't have to wait for a long time to take decisions because some part of that decision making is already being done by lower level employees as well, right? So they are also becoming faster at making decisions. Management can arrive at certain decisions much faster because half of the work has already been done by these lower level employees, right? which they had to do in previous cases. කලින් management එකම ගන්න ඕන decision දැන් lower level employee ට ගන්න පුළුවන්. information processing information access වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් lower level employees ලාට තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒගොල්ලන්ට decision making වලින් ලොකු part එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ හේතුව නිසා ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඉහළින් ඉන්න management එකටත් decision making එක ගොඩක් ඉක්මනින් ගොඩක් fast කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? It's very fast. Therefore, so what happens? The number of managers required reduces, right? Why? They become very faster at making decisions. So a lot of work can be done by them, right? Their efficiency increases. So the number of managers that you need at that level also reduces. A single manager is becoming much faster at making decisions, much faster at working. So a lot of work can be covered, a lot of decisions can be handled by a single manager. So once again, a number of middle managers can be greatly reduced, right? So these changes mean that the manager's span of control has also been broadened, right? So a single manager, like I mentioned earlier, can oversee a number of employees, more number of employees than he or she used to at a previous instant. හරි අපි කියන span of control එක වැඩි වෙනවා management එකේ. හරි යාට oversee කරන්න පුළුවන් employees ලා ගන්න වැඩි වෙනවා. So as a result, what happens? Enabling high-level managers to manage and control more workers spread over great distances, like I explained earlier. So if we look at the next figure, figure 3.8, right? Here you can see. Now here, a traditional hierarchy used to be much taller, no? So this used to be much taller. And due to this behavioral impacts with the advent of IT, certain middle level managers can be eliminated. When it comes to this figure, you can see this entire layer has been eliminated here. Now we understood how certain middle level management can be removed, right? So this is the example where that has been done. So now here you can see a single person can oversee a large number of employees. The span of control has been greatly increased, right? I hope you can understand it by looking at this figure. If it's not clear, please let me know. I will explain it again, right? So many companies have eliminated thousands of middle managers as a result of these changes. So like we saw in the figure, many number of middle managers can be removed from the hierarchy due to these changes. Right. Now we are going to talk about post-industrial organizations. What do you mean by post-industrial organizations? Do you have any idea about the post-industrial era or the nature of post-industrial organizations? Have you heard of post-industrial organizations in any other previous case? What is special about the post-industrial organizations? Can anyone tell me? Post-industrial organizations වල මොකක්ද තියෙන විශේෂත්වය? No ideas. Right. So what happens in post-industrial organizations is now the service sector has the ability of generating more wealth than the manufacturing sector in a post-industrial society, right? Not post-industrial organization. In a post-industrial society, this wealth creation was transferred from purely production-oriented or the manufacturing sector to the service sector, right? So in this society, what happened is technology, information, knowledge, and services become more popular, right? And then they become more important in post-industrial societies. And also, this working class, it gradually shifted to professional middle class, right? Professional workers emerged in this kind of society. So knowledge elites emerged. Knowledgeable people gained more prominence, right, in this kind of post-industrial societies. So, in organizations in this post-industrial society, what has happened as a result, right? Post-industrial theories also support the notion that IT should flatten hierarchies. So in this society also, in post-industrial organizations, this flattening of hierarchy could be observed, right? In post-industrial societies, authority increasingly relies on knowledge and competence and not merely on formal positions. What does that mean? What do you think uh, authority relies on knowledge and competence rather than on formal positions? Now, earlier, we understood that flattening of hierarchies is promoted in post-industrial organizations. Now, in these organizations, the idea of the second point is that if the workers or if the employees or if the professionals in this kind of post-industrial organizations are given sufficient knowledge, or if they are given sufficient access to IT, if they have sufficient IT competence, then they could actually achieve a lot more than they would have if they relied on, strict rigid hierarchies and their position alone. දැන් අපි ට්‍රැඩිෂනල් කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එකේ ටෝල් හයරාකිස් තියෙනවා කියලා අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා. එතකොට පොසිෂන් එකට ලොකු වැලියු එකක් දෙනවා. හයරාකි එකේ තමන් අචීව් කරන පොසිෂන් එක අනුව තමයි තමන්ට ඔතොරිටි එක ඇති වෙන්නේ. ට්‍රැඩිෂනල් කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එකේදී. right? නමුත් මේ පෝස්ට් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රියල් ඕගනයිසේෂන්ස් වලදී මේ හයරාකි එකෙන් තමන්ට ලැබෙන පොසිෂන් එකට වඩා right? competency එකෙන් employees ලගේ හැකියාවෙන් right especially IT skill එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ knowledge එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ competence එක නිසා ඒගොල්ලන්ට authority එක create වෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලන්ට ගොඩක් වැඩිපුර achieve කිරීමේ හැකියාව ලැබෙනවා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ competency and knowledge එක base කරගෙන rather than when focusing on their formal position in the traditional tall hierarchy. ඒකයි අපි කියන්නේ post industrial organization එකේදී knowledge එකට IT competency එකට වැඩි value එකක් දෙනවා කියලා. Right? So by using that competency, the authority is created, or they can achieve more by relying on the knowledge and competence of the workers. Right? So let's see how this organization's tall hierarchy flattens. Right? Shape of the organization flattened because professional workers tend to be self-managing. Now, I told you one of the features of post-industrial society is there's an emergence of professional working class, right? Professionals la ඇති වෙනවා වැඩිපුර මේ post-industrial society එකක. එතකොට මේ professional workers ලාගේ විශේෂත්වය මොකක්ද? They are self-managing. They can manage themselves, right? They need minimum supervision because they are knowledgeable. And decision making should become more decentralized. අපි කියනවා තොරතුරු මොකද decision making කියන්නේ අපි කියන්නේ තීරණ ගැනීම වඩාත් විමධ්‍යගත වෙනවා කියලා කියනවා. හරි තීරණ ගැනීමේ හැකියාව වඩාත් විමධ්‍යගත වෙනවා. ඇයි හේතුව? Knowledge and information become more widespread throughout the firm. So දැනුම සහ තොරතුරු කියන එක ෆර්ම් එක තුල පැතිරෙන එක වැඩි වෙන්න මොකද වෙන්නේ decision making right එක decentralize වෙනවා. තොරතුරු ගැනීම තීරණ ගැනීම විමධ්‍යගත වෙනවා ආයතනය තුල. මොකද්ද හේතුව? දැනුම සහ තොරතුරු freely available. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියනවා ගොඩක් wide spread වෙනවා. ගොඩක් ලොකු අපසරයක දැනුම සහ තොරතුරු spread වෙනවා ඕගනයිසේෂන් එක ඇතුලේ. ඒ නිසා තොරතුරු ආශ්‍රයෙන් තීරණ ගැනීම විමධ්‍යගත වෙනවා. right? තීරණ ගැනීමේ හැකියාව වැඩි වෙනවා ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකේ employees ලට ඉන්න. So since professionals are self-managing, they are more competent, right? They can make their own decisions. Therefore, decision making gets decentralized, right? As a result, what happened? Once again, the tall hierarchy becomes flattened, right? Why? Because Minimum supervision is needed, no need of unnecessary layers of management. Professionals have the ability of managing themselves. Decision making can be done by themselves. So what happens? The tall hierarchies of the organization become gradually flattened. So that is what that has been tried to explain through this figure as well, right? Information systems can reduce the number of levels in an organization by providing managers with information to supervise larger numbers of workers and by giving lower level employees more decision making authority. How can information system reduce the different number of levels? Yes, how can it reduce the different number of levels? By providing the necessary information required for managers to supervise many workers that we learned in the previous case, as well as lower level employees are given more decision making authority, right? So therefore more access to information. You can see how wide access to information can have a huge impact on organizations, right? So now we talked about transaction cost theory, agency theory. We talked about post-industrial society, post-industrial organizations, and how all of these put together contribute to flatten the organization and hence ultimately reduce the cost for the organization, increase the efficiency of the organization as a whole, right? So I hope that part is clear to you, right? So any questions so far? I'll give you several minutes to ask any questions you have. No questions? All right. There's one question. Is the post-industrial also known as information era? Yes. Sometimes this post-industrial society is also, related very closely, and sometimes even interchangeably the term information society is used with the post-industrial era. Yes, that's correct. Any other questions? So there's a request to upload presentations to the LMS. So it has already been uploaded, right? The slide is already been uploaded to the LMS. What are you referring to here? All of you have access to these presentations which have been uploaded, right? In addition to the video recording, you are also, the soft copy has also been uploaded. I assume, and you are advised to actually download them. I think you all have access to that. Any other questions? Um, right, they are there, right? Yeah, so you can easily download them, right? If you want, you can get printouts, or you can keep notes even in the PDF forms, you can include notes. So whatever extra information we provide, you can get it from the LMS. I'll recheck the LMS to see whether all the parts have been uploaded, because now for chapter 3, actually, we have uploaded as part 1 and 2, but in part 2, you find 3 sections of the lecture which have been covered, right? If you look closely, but I'll also recheck the LMS just to be sure whether all parts are uploaded, right? So quickly, let's just go through using information systems to achieve competitive advantage, how that can be achieved, right? How by using information systems, organizations can achieve competitive advantage, right? Now, firms that do better than others are said to have a competitive advantage over others, right? You all know the meaning of competitive advantage. What do you mean by competitive advantage? Simply, if a firm is doing better than others in terms of resources, in terms of competencies, special skills, maybe in terms of innovation, maybe in terms of their production processes, maybe in terms of specialized human resource they have, maybe in terms of access to special raw material, right? We say that firms have the ability to do better than others. So we say that they have competitive advantage over other players in the industry. Then, why do some firms do better than others, and how do they achieve competitive advantage? So, if that is the case, why do some firms achieve competitive advantage over others? What is the reason behind that? Now, there can be several reasons why some firms stand out from the competition, why some firms have a specialized set of skills, competencies, and why they perform better than others, right? So, one way of explaining the answer to this question is by using the competitive forces model of Michael Porter. Now, this I'm pretty sure you might have learned in several places along your several modules you have learned in the university career, but in this particular chapter we are going to look at this from a IT perspective, from information systems perspective, right? So according to the Michael Porter's competitive forces model, you know that it gives you a general view of the firm and who are the competitors of the firm and what is the environment in which the firm operates. Right? Firm එක ගැන ඒකේ තරගකරුවන් ගැන සහ firm එක මොන වගේ තරගකාරී පරිසරයකද තියෙන්නේ කියන එක ගැන අපිට general idea එකක් දෙනවා Michael Porterගේ competitive forces model එකේ. Right? එතකොට මොනවාද මේ කියන 5 competitive forces, right? What are the 5 competitive forces that can shape the firm? You all have heard of these things already, so I'm not going to stress on these much at this point because we are discussing them in detail in the next section of the lecture, right? Rivalry within the industry. Among the existing competitors of the industry, there can be competition, there can be rivalry. And there can be threat from new market entrants, people entering to the industry, people entering to the market newly. You can be threatened, your organization can be threatened by them. Threat to substitute products and services. Also, there can be other organizations who produce products that are very similar to yours or who provide the same utility, same usage as your products and services, right? Substitute products and services. Then bargaining power of customers. This can also be a competitive force because when the customers have the position to bargain, they have the position to claim bargain. Sometimes it can be negative in the face of the firm, right? And also on the other hand, the suppliers also can bargain, right? Maybe for price, terms, right? The terms of contracts, maybe for prices. So this bargaining power can come from both things. So we will be talking about these in detail, individually taking each force in the next part of the lecture, right? So at this point, I want to give you an idea that these are the competitive forces which shape a firm, right? So in this figure, also we have tried to explain to you what are the 5 competitive forces, right? importers competitive model, strategic position of the firm and the strategies are determined not only by competition with its traditional direct competitors, but also by four forces in the industry environment. So the strategic position of the organization is not merely determined by the direct competition that you see within the industry only. You have to look beyond the competition that you see. අපේ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න ඩිරෙක්ට් කම්පිටිෂන් එකෙන් විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපේ උපාය මාර්ගික you know උපාය මාර්ගික පොසිෂන් එක අපේ ඩිටර්මයින් වෙන්නේ. හරි? උපාය මාර්ගිකව අපි කොතනද ප්ලේස් වෙන්නේ, ස්ට්‍රැටජිකලි අපි කොතනද ප්ලේස් වෙන්නේ කියන එක ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න කම්පිටිෂන් එකෙනුත් ඩිසයිඩ් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකේ තියෙන එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එක, අපේ ව්‍යාපාරයේ තියෙන බාහිර පරිසරයේ තියෙන තවත් variables කීපයකිනුත් මේක determine වෙනවා. ඒ variables තමයි අපි මේ හඳුනාගන්නේ threat of new market entrants, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitute products or services, and bargaining power of suppliers, right? So these are the four elements from the external environment which can also influence on the strategic stance, the strategic position of the organization. So in the next lecture, we will discuss each of these in detail, right? How these can impact the business as well as how IT can help us, how information systems and technology can help us to count the threats that we get from these variable elements of the environment, right? මේ කියන forces වලින් අපිට එන threats, අපිට එන challenges කොහොමද IT සහ technology use කරලා අපි counteract කරන්නේ, ඒකට කොහොමද අපි respond කරන්නේ කියලා අපි ඊළඟ lecture එකේ in detail ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. දැන් ඊට අමතරව අද අපි කතා කරපු ඒ වගේ මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? So there's a request saying there's actually a concern can't play the last recording. Are you referring to the recording which I have uploaded? මම upload කරපු recording එකේ play කරන්න බැරි එකක් තියෙනවද මොකක් හරි? Is there any concern regarding my recording which has been uploaded, or are you referring to another recording? Please let me know, because after I uploaded and played it, it played. Let me know if it's another recording, right? So in general, I think you all had certain concerns regarding the assignment. Am I correct? Right. So I think 3 or 4 students had emailed me personally as well. So I think from Department of Finance and Department of Public Administration, right? I think I responded to them this morning. So if there are a number of students who are exceeding the the stipulated number of group members, now we have stipulated 5 members maximum, but if there are a few members who are remaining or left out without a group due to this 5 members maximum, those remaining members can join to several groups and form 6-member groups, right? Let's say only 3 members are left out from the department due to this 5-member maximum rule, then those 3 members can join with 3 groups, and those 3 groups can be 6 members, and that is an exception. But only that additional number can form 6-member groups, right? There cannot be other group members more than 6. And also, please, if you are forming 6-member groups, send an email that these are the 6-member groups in our department, right? So that we can see clearly whether you have gone above the number of stipulated maximum. Are there any questions? Chapter 3, part 3 video is not playing. Okay, let me attend to that, right? Let me check that and see whether there's any issue with that, and if such, I'll upload it again, right? Okay. You are referring to the Thursday's lecture, isn't it? The lecture which was supposed to be uploaded due to a Poya holiday. isn't it? Right. So let me check that with Dr. Mahesh as well. And if there's an issue, right? Yeah, that's the recording you're referring to. Okay. So I'll let him know, and we'll have that rectified, right? I'll let him know. Okay. So any other questions regarding the assignment or formation of groups or anything in general that you wish to know? You can ask. Any more questions? So the recommended reading is actually available at the library now. Since you can't access it, let me have a discussion with our coordinator to see how we can provide you access to the recommended reading, right? Thank you for raising that question. Any others? I think no more questions, right? Okay. There are no more questions. I think we can stop the lecture for today. So we will meet again on coming Thursday, and we will discuss the remaining part of the Porter's 5 competitive forces, right? So today we learned about transaction theory, transaction cost theory, agency theory. We talked about post-industrial organization. We talked about behavioral impact on information technology and organizations, how it flattens hierarchies, and finally we moved on to how we can use information systems to achieve competitive advantage using 5 competitive forces model. Right. So then thank you for your participation today. There's another question, I think. No, like we mentioned, you can form the groups the way you want, right? Um, you can form your own groups. I think already you have done that as well, right? Uh, Not all the group list, just if you are forming 6-member groups, please send me an email, right? Please send an email if you're forming 6-member groups, that this is the reason, this is the total number of students in the department. So these are the 6-member groups, so that you cannot exceed the maximum number of 6-member groups that your department can have, right? Right. So no questions anymore, right? Okay, so we'll wind up for today. If there are like any specific questions regarding to the assignment, please ask, right? I mean, I hope I don't have to explain the entire assignment from beginning to end. So any specific questions, which any specific part which you do not understand regarding to the assignment, you can ask. I'll take a few minutes. I'll stay back and take a few minutes to explain to those who do not understand if there are any questions.